The first time I laid my eyes upon Ping Pong the animation, I thought I was getting into a run-of-the-mill sport anime. Nothing too special, but 11 episodes later, I realized something important. This unique-looking show about ping pong has almost nothing to do with ping pong, the sport. Okay, well, the premise is ping pong, but it's more than that. It's a coming-of-age story revolving around ping pong. Definitely not something you see every day. Furthermore, I realized amongst its many themes, symbols, and fascinating cast of characters, this is a story about finding your wings, breaking out of your cocoon, and finding out how far you can fly. The story of Ping Pong the animation primarily focuses on Peiko and Smiles, two best friends and ping pong prodigies. Peiko was already skipping school and playing ping pong way before high school. Clearly, he lived and breathed the sport and was brimming with natural talent, a ping pong hero. Smiles, on the other hand, is a genius at ping pong, though he held himself back for reasons I will get into sooner or later. Oh, and Smiles was a ping pong robot, precise and mechanical. But at some point or another, Peiko, our ping pong hero and young prodigy, who once flew high and was the best around, found out he was nothing more than a jobber, compared to these guys at least. And even compared to Smiles, his old glorious wings plucked. So Peiko, for a time, lost himself and gave up on ping pong. He went about meandering, gaining weight, hitting the beach, just hanging around, squandering his talent, getting all rusty between the joints. I'd mentioned something about what it's like to be talented from childhood, but I'd just be lying. However, Smiles is a different case from our bowl-cut boy Peiko. Smiles never wanted to win. He never wanted to grow and span wings. He just wanted things to stay as they are and remain in his cocoon. He was always squandering his talent, but for different reasons. And one of those reasons stems from his childhood days of being bullied and stuffed in a locker. And his only defense mechanism was, well, let me switch myself off, submit, and don't make a sound. As long as I don't exist, the issue will ignore me. Although for someone as talented as Smiles, that clearly wasn't the case. While Peiko was plummeting, Smiles was being forced to grow his wings and rise. I'm sure most of us have experienced hiding some great talent within us and having a mentor devote themselves to digging out our greatest potential. Me neither. But it is what happened to Smiles. The school ping pong coach, Butterfly Joe, who was also a great ping pong player back in the day, saw that talent Smiles was squandering, hiding in obscurity, trying not to stand out, even though, ironically, by trying not to stand out, he stood out the most. Hated when that happens. And when Coach saw this talent in Smiles, he struck and pushed Smiles into becoming his pupil, all in the hopes that he can get Smiles out of his cocoon and show him the wings he has and how far he can truly fly. Only if he tries and becomes a winner, which he does throughout most, if not all, of his matches throughout the show. Smiles became notorious in the Japanese high school ping pong scene for his calm and almost robotic demeanor, always precise and accurate. Although his robotic demeanor didn't do much for his social life and his interactions with others, but for ping pong, it gave him flight. It gave him wings. And that's exactly what his coach was aiming for. He was looking to bring out his wings, the same wings he had once upon a time, but clipped for the sake of his friend and rival. There's something interesting Coach asks Smiles.
Do you think you could have done that? Rubbed salt in an old friend's wound? Used a strategy that might have ended his career for good? Could you really have done that?
In essence, can Smiles pluck his own wings for the sake of his friend? Now, back to our boy Peiko. He tried to drown himself in shallow water, but got saved by this guy. He's the guy that reminds Peiko of how great he was and is at ping pong. He brings him back to the light. So Peiko gets it together, seeks mentorship, and drastically improves his game. In other words, he finds his wings again and prepares to spread them out and fly. But it wasn't alone. This old lady trains him and improves him. She was also a great ping pong player back in the day alongside Butterfly Joe, but she got out of the game due to a knee injury. And like how things usually repeat themselves, Peiko also had a knee injury that could potentially end his ping pong career before ever reaching his dream of playing in the Olympics. So Peiko and Smiles have a great final battle during the championships, and in the end, Smiles broke out of his robotic demeanor and Peiko reached the Olympics. The ping pong hero flew all the way to the top. And Smiles left the competitive scene to be a coach and a teacher. Though I believe it's implied, but I think Smiles did exactly the same things his coach did. He plucked his own wings so that his friend could fly and reach the highest heights he could. I mean, Smiles even becomes a ping pong coach and a teacher, just like his own coach. Though it's not a bad thing, Smiles saw the heights and how far he could go, and he chose to go a different path. What matters is he flew. Who knew ping pong had this much emotional stake? And I didn't even mention the other guys who went on their own emotional journeys throughout this show. One thing's for sure, this show is quite the experience. So anyway, if you enjoyed the video, feel free to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Till next time.